Welcome, everybody, to episode 1 of the Gym Sessions podcast. Can't even explain how excited I am for this day, all the work that's been put in for this podcast behind the scenes, and a special guest for episode 1. I've got my man DG, Derick Grant, in the house today. How's it going, man?
Man, it's going well. I appreciate you having me. And man, it's special to be the first one on the first episode.
Dude,
man.
I had to get you in. We had to set the tone.
Yeah,
got to set the tone. So we will kind of take a left turn here, and instead of the typical, what's your background, where you from, how'd you grow up, we'll get to that so the audience can get to know you. But I want to jump right into something because I have had tons of conversations with you. I've seen you speak. I've seen you present. I'm on your coaching app. There's something that you say that I think will really be interesting to start off with, and that is there's no such thing as time. Yeah. So can you tell me what you mean by that?
Well, look at it like this, right? So I forgot what year it was, but Einstein, when he came up with the theory of general relativity, this is part of it. Basically, time is relative. If you look at how you experience an hour, right? An hour sitting in the chair at the dentist's office with a drill is going to feel like it takes forever versus an hour sitting on a park bench with a pretty lady seems like it flies by. Yeah. It's relative of how you experience it, right? So then we actually go to time and space, and this is where I'm gonna get deep on you here.
Okay, let's get it.
If we think of like this universe, and we go up into space, think of it like I'm holding a blanket and you're holding the same blanket. I'm holding one corner and you're holding the other corner. We stretch it out as far as we can. This is what time and space is. This is what this entire universe, this earth, this is what everything is. We cannot see it though. Okay, we can't see it with our eyes. But if we were to take something that had mass, like a bowling ball, and put it in the middle of that blanket, everything would cave in to where that mass was. It would create a gravity well. This blanket is representing space and time. So meaning you can't have space without time, and you can't have time without space. So where I'm holding the blanket at and where you're holding the blanket at, the distance in between that is called space. And how long it takes for me to get to you is what we call time. So in our solar system, the sun is the most dense object in our solar system, which is why everything goes around it because it's making the heaviest gravity well. So we're all like, you ever seen in the mall when you got those coins and you put it down the tunnel and it keeps going around and around? That's essentially what we're doing. And then you look at the second most dense object in our solar system is Jupiter. That's why it has the most moons, because it's creating a gravity well for these celestial bodies going around itself. Okay, cool. What's the point? What does that have anything to do with me, right? Understanding that like time bends based on the heaviness of that object. So if we look in our in our universe, the most dense thing is a black hole. Mm-hmm. So a black hole caves space and time. So literally it'd be like taking like me and you were holding this blanket and we take a bowling ball that weighs a ton and we put it in the middle. My side and your side are going to collapse and become one. So you see, So time just instantly disappeared or it got dilated. So it shows you that it's not really actually a thing. So this is where I tell people, there is no such thing as the past and there's no such thing as the future. There's no such thing. They are mind-made constructs. But if you go ask an animal, if you go ask anything that does not have the ability to perceive outside of the present moment because it doesn't have an imagination, it doesn't have memory, it's going to tell you that it's only present. It's only now. So this is where people don't realize time is a psychological construct. So when you're stressed out and you're worried and you feel fear and you feel anxiety, those are all quote unquote future thoughts that don't actually exist. They're mind made, but you swear they're real. And here's the thing about us as human beings. We have the ability to think of something that has not yet happened, and our bodies don't know the difference. So the body will react as if like, oh no, something bad's really going to happen. Right. But I try to tell people all the time, when you understand that there is no such thing as time, it's literally just now. It's just the present moment. And all things in your life are created from the present moment. This is where like, it's a game changer. So now you don't have to feel anxiety. You don't have to feel stress. You don't really like fear. It's self-induced. Worry, shame, guilt. It's because the mind is creating this thing called the past using memory of where it was. But that actually doesn't exist anymore. It's just now. So
do we have your attention? Do we have your attention? So let's follow up on that. And like I said, we'll get back into your background, and we'll come back to that concept too. But obviously, you are not some regular dude, right? We ain't on Zoom with it. Like, we got real mics, real equipment. I brought you in for a reason. DG, go ahead and introduce yourself to my audience and tell them who you are, what you do, and how you got to this present moment.
Yeah, I go by Derick Grant, DG also, and basically I'm a mindset performance coach / spiritual advisor, right? I help you get out of your own way because the battle was always just you versus you. And it's all going to be done through the mind. So basically what I help people do is, one, become aware of their thoughts. Two, become aware of the programmed thoughts that are just running on repeat. And then three, deconstruct them and then reconstruct them however you want. When people realize that your life is literally just a construct of your thoughts, but 90% of your thoughts are somebody else's thoughts that have been put on you, why don't we just go ahead and create our own life the way we want from the mind down? So that's it in a nutshell. My background's in basketball, right? I love the game, played 8 years for the Harlem Globetrotters, traveled to 70 different countries, got to do a lot of cool stuff. Went through some ups and some downs in life, and I realized that they weren't really ups and they weren't really downs. It was just based on how I was perceiving it. So basically, I'm trying to give everybody their power back.
I love that. So I was doing some research before the show and actually discovered something that I didn't even know. And mind you, we've been friends for years now. We've spent time together working on some of this mindset stuff. I've listened to you speak and coach in different environments. But I found out that you were an EA Sports graphic capturing actor. Is that true?
Yeah, man. It was crazy. I think it was like 2009. I was with the Globetrotters. We played a game on ESPN. And I was always the one who was joking around in practice. Like, I was always doing impressions of the coach and the guys on the team. So they just started they were like, do Michael Jordan, do Kobe Bryant, do LeBron. So I would do it in practice. Well, when we played this game on ESPN, somehow the people at ESPN, the producers, got a hold of it. So they put it on, they had me actually do impersonation. And this was before B.5 or whatever. These guys were doing this.
Yeah.
And then it made it on the front page of Yahoo.
That is dope.
And it blew up. Well, when I got done with the Globetrotters, producers for NBA Live, EA Sports, they were looking for motion capture actors. So this guy was on YouTube looking for people who do impersonations, and he found me, and he was like, "You'd be great for it." So I did it for 3 years, man.
That's crazy.
It was really cool, man. Really cool.
Yeah. So I found that out, and I was like, "Man, he's never told me that. I never knew that."
I forget.
They had the little white bulbs all over you and everything.
I'll tell you this, people don't realize, because we had to play it was me and usually 7 other guys. So we'd play 4 and 4, and all these guys played in the NBA. These are all Joey Graham, Stephen Graham, Will Conroy, coaches up at University of Washington. These were real hoopers, but we're in all of this stuff with gloves on. Now you try shooting a ball that has gloves on. So it was really funny to see people these guys' competitiveness come out. Yeah. But you really can't hoop.
You can't hoop. No, it's you're here for your movements and that's it. Don't even try to get a bucket.
Yeah. It was a good experience though, for sure.
That's dope. So going back into a little bit even before that, you're from Jersey originally, right? Yeah. And you grew up moving around.
Yeah, I was everywhere. I mean, I was born in Virginia. I moved to Maryland after that. Then I moved to Pennsylvania. Then I moved to upstate New York. Then I moved to Louisiana. Then I moved to New Jersey. My dad worked for Kraft Foods, and he was climbing his way up the corporate ladder. And so we were moving every 2 to 3 years. So it helped me a lot because now I can relate to everyone because I've seen how different parts of the country. I tell people New York to Louisiana was you might as well go from Earth to Mars. It's and then going back to New Jersey after that, it gives you perspective when you can see how other people live.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, that's one of the biggest things. One of my biggest hobbies, and I don't get to do it as much as I would like to, is, just traveling, experiencing other cultures and seeing how other people operate, especially outside of America. Yes. I mean, it's really, truly special when you get to go to a place like I've been to Iceland, and that was amazing. It's a crazy place. I've been to Rome, went to the Vatican, went to the Colosseum to see, how do these people operate? You know, one thing about Rome was like weird how they ate pizza. It was like we think of pizza, it's like a triangle, right?
Right.
Theirs is it's like a square that you smash together like that. And so I'm like, this is like, this is real pizza. I don't want to go back home and cut it like into triangles.
They know how to do
I'm doing it. They invented it. I need that. I need the sandwich.
When in Rome,
Literally, that's probably what the phrase came from. It's like some dude in America was like, "Nah, I'm gonna eat my pizza like this." When in Rome, but no. So traveling around, like you said, it exposes you to different cultures, allows you to meet different types of people. Now that you're working with so many different types of people on their mindset and their mental performance, how much do you think that has really impacted you? And then why don't you go ahead and talk about some of the different kinds of people, different job titles that you work with in your coaching business?
Yeah, so that's one thing I realized after, like, you know, you get to go to 70 different countries. Yeah, cool. But I remember like being like in Argentina and like really like being on the bus and we're just going down the street and I'm looking and watching these people, like observing how they lived and wondering like, I wonder if they like have the same problems that I do, or I wonder if they like stress out about the same things that I do. And I was doing this unconsciously, but then I realized like, oh wait, like this was actually the reason why I do what I do now, because I was constantly just gaining context and perspective by seeing like we all have the same issues, all of us. Right. Like I don't care how much money you have, I don't care what kind of job title you have, I don't care like if you speak another language. We all basically, the foundation is we want to make sure that we're enough. We want to feel like we're worthy. And we just want peace. Right. And that's it. So knowing that that's always the tree trunk that it'll come back to, like I work with clients. My clients range from NFL, NBA, WNBA, surgeons, entrepreneurs. I know that it's always going to come back to that. Like you want to make sure that you're enough. Right. You want to feel peace. So when I know that, the surface of what you do or how much you make is irrelevant, because I know we're always going to keep coming back to that. So I will say this, in my 2 years of having this business, I'd say probably over the last 7 to 8 months, I've like come to the realization that like, well, they have all the same problems with different surface. The surface, it looks different. I'm the same way. So if I can figure out me, I can help you figure out you. Yes.
The same root cause.
Exactly.
No, that's perfect. I mean, just looking at your shirt and your hat, you got the Life is Mental gear on. I almost wore my Life is Mental shirt, but I was like, nah, I don't want to match. I know he's gonna rock his. I know he's gonna rock his. So I said, I'll just rep the Pace brand for a little bit today.
There you go.
But explain what that means to you, because I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but it seems so simple, right? It's like life is mental, but like there's depth there. What does that really mean?
Yeah, like I'll just keep it. I won't go too deep on people, right? But like, if you think about it, look at the room that you're in, look at the phone or whatever you're watching this on or listening to. This first started with someone's imagination.
Right.
Everything. There's nothing in this entire universe that was not first conceived through consciousness. This wall, this microphone, this podcast. This was an idea that you had years or months or weeks ago, and you were like, oh, what if I did? So when you realize that literally your life is a construct of your thoughts, this physical world, I stopped paying attention to the physical world probably like a year ago. I don't like, you see my body here, but I'm not like, I live on the plane, the mental plane. I don't live on the physical plane because the physical plane was just the effect. And we know that cause and effect, if I just take care of the cause, the effect will always be taken care of. But people don't realize their life is the effect of their thoughts. Right. That will always be the first cause. So when I say life is mental, I was on a plane the other day and a flight attendant was like, is that good or bad? I go,
hey, depends on how you look at it.
Right, it depends on how you see it. Like it's literally. And she was like, wait, I don't understand. I'm like, you're doing what you thought you could do. The problem is you unconsciously thought this. What if you could consciously think like, I'm going to be this and do this and do this and understand what fear actually is, that it's actually not real because it's all constructed within your mind. Right. I could go on for hours about like getting people to realize your life is a mental construct. You are a psychological being. When there is no mind, all of your problems go away. all of your stresses go away. Why do you think they put you out when you have surgery?
Facts. Thank God. Too.
Yeah, right?
Man,
Like
I have back surgery.
You can't focus your attention, your consciousness, your awareness to where the pain is. Right. So I've like plant medicine, like I've done it to the point like there is no. When you understand what pain is it's a construct of the mind.
Right.
This is why when our dogs go to get like vaccines or like get their shots, they're not terrified and like, oh no, because they don't have the higher faculties of the mind to create fear. Mm-hmm. But when we go, it's like, oh, pain is just of the mind. So I say that every part of your life is a construct of your mind. The question is, are you ruling your mind, or is your mind on autopilot based on what it's been programmed to do?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that programming too. Talk about that programming. So I went to see you speak a couple weeks ago, and you were talking about the subconscious mind and the age ranges that is all accepting. So subconscious mind, I'll let you break it down, but what from my perspective is, from about 0 to 6, you are only accepting ideas. You're being programmed by the environment around you. So your parents, your friends, schools, society, culture, whatever. And then around 7 years old, you develop a conscious. And so you can kind of filter that and say, that's not a good idea. Or, yeah, I like that. I'll keep that. So you talked about the experiment you did with your kids. I did the same thing, right? So I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
It was perfect. So a couple days ago, I drop them off every day for school. Yeah. So a couple days ago, I asked Mason, my 5-year-old, I was like, Mason, you got to drive us to school today. You got it. And I throw him the keys. He catches them. He's like, all right, let's go. I'm like, okay. Then I do the same thing to Mason. He was up, or I do the same thing to Julian. He was upstairs getting dressed, so he didn't see it. I give him the keys. I'm like, Julian, you got to drive us to school today. I'm too tired, man. Throw him the keys. He was like, but Dad, I don't have my driver's license.
He could reason.
And he could reason. He's 7. Mason's 5. So it's a perfect age representation of like, Mason is only accepting. He's only accepting. Julian now has a little bit more of a conscious mind to say, wait, I can't drive. Yeah. Like I ain't never drove a car before. And he's taking a step further. He's like, I don't have a driver's license.
Right. Smart kid.
My boy is like crazy following the rules. Like it's crazy.
Most firstborns are.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about what goes into that concept. And I don't even know if concept is the right word because it's just a fact. Right. You know what I mean? It's a fact of brain science. But what goes into that as far as subconscious mindset programming versus when you actually are an adult and now you have to rewire yourself because you were programmed poorly in some cases.
Yeah, so we're all like being programmed by our parents, right? And think of it like this: 99.9% of the perceptions that you have on this world of yourself, of your environment, was done between the ages of 0 and 6, 0 and 7. That's when the perceptions were developed. So like with my kids, I made sure I never told my kids they couldn't do something. Yep. Never. Not in the sense like, oh, don't you do that. I'm saying like my son one day, we were riding in the car and he was looking outside. And he was like, I bet I can run faster than this car. Now, we were going like 45, 50. I'm like, physically, could he? I would probably say no, but I can't tell him that.
Right.
I can't tell him that. And the reason why, so I didn't say, yes, you can. I just said, you think so? He was like, yeah. And I affirmed what he thought. Right. Because subconsciously, what it will do is if I say, no, you can't, when he's 35 years old, he's trying to start his own business. That's what's going to be playing. No, I can't. No, I can't. So I'm learning like in my own life, like it's real work. That's why like when I work with somebody, it's 6 months. Like I'm not working with anybody for less than 6 months because it takes time. We have to go down into the depths of your subconscious to find like these programs. And I will say this, it's painful. It is painful when you start like pulling out these things that you thought was truth. You thought that this was actually life, and it's like, no, like it was just a belief. That's all it was. It's all it was. When you understand that your whole life is merely just a set of beliefs, and beliefs are malleable. So I can change my beliefs, however. So that's really what it comes down to is like, are your beliefs really your beliefs? And are your beliefs in line with what you want to do in life? I'm dealing with a guy right now, and he's like his world is like caving in on him because it's like, I thought all this stuff was true. I thought everything, like, no, like you created your truth. You did, based on your perceptions. But the problem is your perceptions were programmed back when you had no say in it.
Right. And that's the scary thing.
That's the scary thing. And
it's crazy being a parent. I mean,
now you're probably different. Like when you think about like how you say things to your kids. Yeah.
Like when you first introduced that to me, when we had you over at the gym to talk to those athletes, I it's not like I talk to my kids like reckless, you know what I mean? Sure. I think I'm a number one dad, you know what I'm saying? But after that, I was like, damn, sometimes I can be limiting, and that changed my mindset where I'm like you said, maybe you can't physically run faster than that car, but I can't tell you can't, because I don't want you to think that in other areas of life, something that's kind of outlandish is like, no, I can't. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe you can. A while back, people weren't running 26, 27 miles an hour. Usain Bolt is running that fast now. So like, think about how athletes progress and technology and training progresses. Like, who knows? Somebody could maybe run 30 miles an hour one day. It's like your example you always say about the Wright brothers. Right. They flew a plane. Yeah. That's crazy to think about. They made bikes for a living.
Right. Think about that. That's wild.
It's crazy and it hits home for me too, because I'm a quote unquote strength coach, right? A lot of people don't know, and we'll get into this in the podcast where I do solo episodes, but I started as a basketball coach and a basketball trainer. But I transitioned to be more of a strength coach because that was where my demand was. But all of a sudden, now I have the time and the demand and the skill set to do both on court and in the weight room training. Yeah. But people label me as a strength coach. And it kind of bugs me, you know what I mean? Like if they would have been labeled as guys who make bikes and listen to that, like, no, we can't make a plane. Right. We make bikes. Right. And I'm like, oh, no, I can't train hoopers on the court. Yeah. I lift weights. Like, but why? Why not? Right. I have the knowledge. I have the skill set. I have the eye for it. Like, I can't do both. Why not?
Man, you're saying that, and a lot of people don't realize you will only be whatever you believe you are. Right. Let me say it one more time for the people.
Run that back. Make sure you got good audio on there. Speaking to the mic.
You are only going to be what you believe you are. The problem is your belief of yourself usually isn't really yours. It was passed along. Mm-hmm. So I always grew up with like, be humble, right? Humility, I took that as like, don't exert yourself. Don't give all that you have. If you can dominate, you don't dominate. You play it humble. So now here I am living my life based on what I was actually taught instead of based on what I was capable of. So now I'm 39 years old. I'd say probably like 37 is when I started like, man, F that. I'm not like, I'm going to believe in me so much that you thought I was crazy. You would think I'm nuts if you could hear my thoughts that go on in my mind. Because I realized I have to believe in me. I have to, because that's what I'm going to end up being. Like, so why would I not like double down on me? Why would I not why would I not think that I am capable of doing any and everything regardless of what? Because I have to. I may not make that. I may not even reach it. But at least I'll come close because that's what my belief was. You always act out of your beliefs, period.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that's so important. Again, if there's any parents listening, you got under a 6-year-old, you're programming them with the information, the data, the responses that they're going to use later on in life. Yeah. And it's crazy because like I just got done watching that Jeffrey Dahmer thing, right? Oh, yeah. And part of me is mad at myself because I watched it. Like, I'm like, bro, I could have Googled it. I know what happened. Like, why did I need to know more? But I watched it and I was thinking about some of the stuff that we talk about. And I'm like, it's hard to say. It's hard to say that he was born like that or programmed like that. But you can see some of the things. Now, this is just a movie or a series, basically. But you can see some of the things that if we applied the same concept, like, the dude was programmed a certain way.
Absolutely.
And he acted on it, and then he never had any type of, nobody stopped him at the right time. And so, obviously that's an extreme example, example, but it's so powerful what the brain can retain and then bring back to life later on in life. It's nuts.
And that's where like I tell parents, like, you got to do your work on you. You got to figure out you, because you're the programmer. So you have to, like, our kids are naturally more aware of themselves than we are. Like, we look at our parents now, we're like, what were they thinking? And like our parents say the same thing about their parents. So the child will always be more aware of themselves. This is how the universe ensures evolution. Mm-hmm. But like, I realized when my son he's 10 now, probably when he was like 7, I was like, oh, like, he's far more aware. Like, when he's talking back, that's because he's coming from a higher state of awareness. I got to do my work on me. I got to become more aware of myself than he is of himself if I'm going to like lead and guide him. Yeah. So that's where like I always encourage parents, like, do the work on you, like self-realization, self-mastery, like doing that work on yourself. This is how you make a better investment into the world through your children.
Yeah, it's the old saying, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. Exactly. It's like you got to make sure that you are whole yourself. Period. If you keep giving out pieces of you and you're not whole, you ain't going to have no substance left. Exactly. There's a picture. It's like a dad who's made of a puzzle piece. He's made of puzzle pieces. And he's like only an outline now, and he has one puzzle piece left. And his son is fully comprised of puzzle pieces, but he's missing one puzzle piece. And it shows like the dad giving away that puzzle piece that fits what he needs, but it empties him. And I'm like, I get what they're saying. Right. I understand that. But you can't give away your whole self, or you'll burn out, or you'll be not the best version of yourself, or many different variations of, that type of situation going wrong.
Yeah, that's why I will say, like, as a husband, as a father, as a friend, especially in our Western world, like, we get taught that like taking care of ourselves is being selfish. Right. It's like, and I realize, I'm like, I can be a better husband, a better father, a better son, a better friend when I take care of myself. So like my routine in the morning, say everybody else gets up at 6:30, I'm up at 5 because I need an hour and a half for me. Right. I'm taking care of me. I'm filling up my cup. I'm, breath work, meditation, journaling. I'm doing reading. I'm doing everything before I ever interact with another human being. So when they get me, it's the full version of me. My tank is full. Yep. And now, because I have my tank is full, that will be what I give. But, when we get taught the rat race of life, you got to just go, grind. It's like, wait, you're damn near empty. This is what you're going to give to everybody. You don't have anything to give. Right.
Yeah. Going back to Hudson, your son too, he's lit. Like, I love him because he came to my basketball camp and he was tatted up. Like, he had all these temporary tattoos on down his arm, down his leg. And I'm like, I love that. Like, he's expressing himself and you're empowering him, obviously, to do that. Like, that's such a dope, like, my kids draw on themselves all the time, obviously, because I have tats. It's probably the same for you. Yeah. They associate that with dad. You know what I mean? Right. That's dad, and dad does this for us and this for us. And he's a great human. He takes care of us. And so they're like, hey, people who are dope have tattoos, like my dad. Like, so it's crazy, man. But hey, what's up, y'all? Justin Ochoa here, the host of Gym Sessions Podcast, taking a quick break from the action to say a big thank you to the sponsor of today's show, and that is Hoist. Now, anybody who's followed me for any amount of time has seen me drinking Hoist for years. I promise you, it's the best hydration drink on the market. And to support that, I want to look at a common competitor, something that you may have seen, called a Gatorade. Let's take a look at the electrolyte profile. Now, mind you, hydration is not just about fluid. You can't just drink a lot of water and think you're going to get hydrated. You need electrolytes to help actually get the fluid to the cell and hydrate the body. So some of those electrolytes are calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, phosphates, chlorides. You can name any of those things and look at one of these bottles and find it. Let's take a look at the amount of electrolytes in a Hoist versus a Gatorade. Hoist has 430 milligrams of sodium. Gatorade has 270. Hoist has 130 milligrams of calcium. Gatorade has 0. Hoist has 260 milligrams of potassium. Gatorade only has 80. And Hoist has 20 milligrams of magnesium. Gatorade has 0. Gatorade has 34 grams of added sugar, which I'm not completely against sugar in a intra or post-workout recovery drink, but 34 is a little excessive. Hoist has 13. And then Gatorade has caramel color, red 40, ester of rosin, modified food starch. Hoist has stevia. So it's pretty clear which is the optimal hydration drink. If you want to learn more about Hoist, you can go to drinkhoist.com. If you like what you see, you can use my promo code PACE, P-A-C-E, at checkout for 10% off. I promise you, it's a game changer. Going back to, you mentioned higher faculties of the mind, and I'll probably butcher this, but there's 7 of something. There's 7 of something that you talk about. You probably know what I'm saying more than I do. You don't have to go deep on them, but what are those 7 laws of nature? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So sometimes they're called the 7 universal laws. Sometimes they're called the 7 hermetic principles. Sometimes they're called 7 laws of nature. These 7 laws are immutable, meaning they don't change. So they've been this way from the beginning of time. They will be this way to the end. It doesn't matter if you are on Mars or Jupiter or if you're in, they will always be the same. These are the 7 governing principles that govern this entire universe, including you. So people see this physical body called Derick, but I operate by these 7 laws. So this is essentially, I always tell people this is the game. It's almost like when you get a board game. You get a board game, if you're like me, you don't read their instructions, but most people will get it and they'll flip through the instructions of how to play it. Well, we never get taught these 7 laws. They knew this thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. When you understand what these 7 laws are and how they actually work and how they work in your life, you can play the game now. You can play the game of life. So the first one, the law of mentalism. The law of mentalism states that this universe is mental. It's mind. Life is mental. So people don't realize, when I say life is mental, 1, I'm talking on the physical plane. Yes, whatever you have in this world is what you thought. 2, I'm talking on a universal level, the law of mentalism. But then also 3, when you understand the mind with a capital M, it's everywhere. There's nowhere that it's not. And I don't want to get too deep into metaphysics, but the mind is literally a sea of energy that is conscious and it's aware. We're in the mind right now, and we are the manifestation of its thoughts. Okay? Number 2. I'm saying you don't want to get me going, man.
Hey, you got to take a swig of Hoist on that one.
Number 2 is the law of vibration. The law of correspondence. And all the law of correspondence is as above, so below. See, human beings, we struggle with life because we don't know that we live on 3 planes of existence simultaneously. Your consciousness is on 3 different planes: the spiritual plane, the mental plane, the physical plane. Spirit, mind, body. So your awareness is on all 3 planes. Well, the law of correspondence says, as above, so below, meaning however I am on, say, the mental plane, I will be that on the physical plane. So this is when I try to tell people, your life literally is mental because of this law that governs. Right. So you're your physical body. Our physical bodies are a manifestation of our subconscious and conscious thoughts. I eat that because I consciously or unconsciously eat it, which then manifests itself or when I work out, I consciously think. It always started with the plane above. Most of us, we live from the physical plane up. So we let what happens at work, or we let, I got cut from the team, we'll let that dictate our thoughts. It always had to be from the top down, which goes in the next one. The next one is the law of vibration, which basically says everything's constantly changing. Everything's constantly vibrating. Nothing stays the same. A subset of that is what everybody knows, the law of attraction. Right? The law of attraction basically says everything's vibrating. Everything that vibrates creates a frequency. Like frequencies will be attracted to like frequencies. So business is so simple to me because it's not about what it looks like right now. It's about me presently attuning myself to the mindset to the actions of the future version of me that I'm trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where, like, you throw the word faith. This is why faith kept being used and used and used over and over and over again through ancient holy texts. It was because this was how you bare minimum had to have faith to create the life that you were going to live. Which moves into the next one, the law of rhythm. I was going to tell you this, but I was like, let me just wait for the podcast, right? The law of rhythm basically says that the pendulum swings to the left and it swings to the right. And however far it goes to the left, it has to swing just as far to the right. So we're going to have our good days and we're going to have our bad days. We're going to have our good months. We're going to have our bad months. There's going to be rain and then there's going to be drought.
Yeah.
How far the pendulum swings is based on your ability to perceive something. So if I perceive this as being bad, it's going to seem like the pendulum is swinging really far this way. But if I can look at the situation and say, like, what is this actually teaching me? The pendulum will start to swing back the other way because you're essentially transmuting that energy. So there's a subset of that law called the law of, the principle of balance, which basically says this universe has to balance everything out. So if I have a lot of rain, I'm going to have drought to balance it out.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to have my great business months, I'm going to have the other side to balance it out. And the reason why is because this universe creates imbalance, so the desire for balance is then cultivated.
Gotcha.
So think about it. When you have a slow month or a rough day, that then creates the desire to want to have a better day or a better month. So the imbalance creates the need or the desire for balance. So I always like finances. I don't chase money. I don't go after money. Because money was just energy. So here's what I do. I create an imbalance of value. See, so if I create an imbalance of value and I'm giving, I'm helping, I'm giving, the universe has to balance that. It has to balance itself out. And here's the beauty of it. There's infinite possibilities as to how. So I don't worry about how or what it's going to look like. But like something may pop up. I'm like, dang, where'd that go? Oh, yeah. That's because for the last 3 months, you've been just like value. So that has helped me immensely as being an entrepreneur, of understanding like I need to create an imbalance of value if I want the business to grow. And it also goes for me personally. Like I have to create an imbalance of like me internally. So taking risks on situations, doing things that I'm afraid of, that creates insecurity, which will then balance out in the form of security.
Right.
Yeah. So actually, that was actually number 5.
I like that one.
Yeah.
That one, I felt that.
That it's like, dang, if you knew that, like.
Yeah, you can play to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Actually, that was number 5. There's one that comes before that called the law of polarity, and that basically just says for every energy, there's an opposite equal energy. Mm-hmm. So for every pole, there's going to be another like end of it. So let's just say you have a problem. That's one end of the pole. On the other end of the pole is a solution. So they exist simultaneously. So like, I don't have problems. I don't term them as problems. I just say this is a solution that I have not yet discovered. So the analogy I use is like hot and cold. Temperature is the energy, but hot and cold are really the same thing. They're just varying by degrees of vibration. So something that's hot is vibrating faster than something that is cold. A problem is vibrating slower than what a solution is. So when you think of vibrations as your scale of consciousness or your awareness, the lower vibe, people say like, hey, good vibes only, man. Like, this is what it means. It means like high vibrations of positivity versus low vibrations of being negative. So if I'm in a negative state, like, oh my gosh, this problem, I'm never going to be at the vibration to be able to perceive the solution that already exists. So this is why a lot of times when you can't figure something out, take a step back and alleviate and raise your vibration. Then you'll see the solution. You're like, oh my gosh, yeah. So, and I actually did this with my 7-year-old daughter the other day. She woke up and she was saying that she was sad. She was sad because she couldn't find pants to wear, right? So she's sitting at the kitchen table and she's like, she had this frown on her face. I'm like, how do you feel? She's like, I feel sad. So I got a napkin. I drew a dot and wrote the word sad. And then I drew a line with another dot. So here we have a line with 2 points. I said, what's the opposite of sad? She said, happy. I said, you do realize that happy exists right now too because it's the same energy. How could we shift our perspective so that way maybe we could view this as being happy or even being thankful? That will move you towards the other end. And she was like, well, that I'm going to find it eventually. Like she figured out like what a 7-year-old would say. And it instantly like raised her vibration and she ended up finding a pair of pants in the dryer. Yeah. So, but if we see this all the time as adults, we wallow in our mistakes or our issues or our problems. It's like, no, there's an opposite equal that exists right now, but it's up to you to shift the way you view the situation. And then probably my favorite one is the sixth one is the law of cause and effect. There's no coincidences. Nothing's random. It's just cause and effect. And when you know that, the first cause will always be thought. Why would I ever focus on the effect? It's like the top of the mountain. If the top of the mountain is where I want to get to, that's my goal. There's a series of causes that would, if I do those, I take care of those, then the effect will be I get at the mountain. So every cause creates an effect, and then that effect becomes the cause of a new effect, and so forth and so on. So we look at like, oh, wow, like we're sitting here sharing space and time right now, but when you really look at like when you were born, how your parents met, like it was just cause, effect, and I had my own, and now here we are sitting here sharing time. So we would say like, oh man, it's so random I met him. No, it's not. That's because I just don't know all the series of causes and effects. So like in my own life, in business, I stopped focusing on like the effect. I have a goal, but now it's just like, let's figure out what the causes are. Right. And let's just take care of those.
Knock those out and
everything's fall in place. And then the last one is the law of gender, which just means that everything has a masculine and feminine. Masculine, think of like, it's the energy of masculine is like doing, action, conscious, like being conscious when you do something. Feminine is more of like trusting your gut, inaction, resting. For something to be created, there has to be an equal harmony. There has to be a balance of it. So like, I think about with friendships or relationships or even like business transactions, if there's an imbalance of someone's always just like receiving, that's feminine. They're just receiving. I'm constantly just giving, and there's no value exchange back. I know that it won't work. I've had to like tell people no because I realize we're violating a universal law. It won't work.
Right. So that's a tough conversation. Like, hey man, the universe ain't gonna like this one.
Sorry, buddy. It's not me. It's not you. It's just I'm like going by what I know. So like I use the analogy of like a tree, right? So we have an apple tree, and an apple tree gives its fruit. That's masculine. The deer or animals eat the fruit. That's receiving. That's feminine. But then they defecate the seeds out. That's giving. That's masculine. And then the ground receives the seed. That's feminine. And then the ground then gives a tree. Gotcha. You see? So like this operates through all of nature. All of nature. So like everything I do, it like, especially relationships when I advise people, someone's like, oh, he said this and he did this and I'm not listening to the conversation. I'm seeing the energy of the conversation. Oh, okay, well, that relationship that you're in will never work. Why? Because there's an imbalance of the feminine energy and the masculine energy. Right. And this is with everything, like marriage. Me and my wife work because there's a balancing of the feminine. I have to be more feminine and she has to be more masculine. Sorry, I have to be more masculine. She has to be more feminine because she's naturally more masculine and I'm naturally more feminine, and we balance each other out. And this is like basketball. Basketball, right? If I shoot the ball all the time, that's masculine versus passing.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It has to be a balance.
So people have to get out of the mindset of like boy versus girl. It's the energy. It's the energy. It's deeper than like that's something a girl would do or something a guy would do. It's the energy before all that stuff was even assigned to us. Right. It's the universe.
Right, exactly. And that's where like look, a lock and a key. A key is masculine. Mm-hmm. And the lock that receives it is feminine. You talking, we're having a conversation right now, right? If I talk, and you listen, ears are feminine. Talking is masculine. One's going out, one's coming in. There has to be a balance of you talking and me being able to listen, or this conversation will not work.
Right. That's why stubborn people can't take guidance or advice from anybody because they're not using these.
Yeah. So I always try to, anytime I work with somebody or I live my own life, these 7 laws like are what I'm governing everything by, and life becomes a lot more simple when you just, 1, you know the rules, but then 2, you play by the rules.
It's crazy how they all feed each other too.
Yeah.
Like it's constant, like a balance, a give and take. All these concepts that people are probably familiar with, they probably just never heard them or knew the origin of them. Yeah. And a lot of people use things like this and unconsciously do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And now that you know them, you can really work on them consciously. Yeah. So backtracking, that was good too. Like that was because I've heard them, but it's a lot. 7 things to remember is. Sure, that's like 2 or 3 past my limit. You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta piece them together. Yeah. So going back to, we talked about subconscious is your programming. Then you're old enough, you develop some type of filter. Yeah. Talk about that real quick. Talk about that real quick.
Yo, I'm not a peach guy, but this is delicious. Hoist.
I'm trying to put people on, man. Hoist.
Son, this is delicious.
I'm telling you, this hydration right here is next level.
What flavor is that?
This is blue raspberry.
Oh, see, you
see, I ain't been.
You gave me the exotic one.
Bro, I haven't been thirsty in 2 years. I just drink them because I like the taste.
Man, these are
hydration next level.
Yeah.
Anyway, shout out to Hoist.
Yeah, good looking out, Hoist.
Yes, sir. Going back to subconscious thoughts, then you develop a conscious, and then due to the laws of nature, you're going to deal with the repercussions or the just the accountability of having those subconscious thoughts. And I think a lot of what you do is teaching people how to extract, reprogram, and then maybe find a new perception or maybe find a new use for those thoughts. Can you talk about what it looks like for an adult or just somebody who's not 7 years old to reprogram themselves from some of these limiting beliefs? Like a lot of people have limiting beliefs, and you say a lot of things, a lot of your treatment towards other people is a reflection of yourself. That comes from limiting beliefs. That comes from the way you're programmed, the way you were raised, what you were taught and told. So in a nutshell, what does an adult do to start to knock down those walls and reprogram themselves?
Can I go deep?
Go deep.
Okay.
Yeah, let's get it.
Okay. So the first thing you have to understand is what you're not. So I ask people, who are you? This first thing always, who are you? What are you? They're like, oh, well, I'm Ted, and I'm a lawyer, and I'm this, I'm that. I'm like, okay. So then what happens then? What do you believe happens when your body stops working? We call it death, and you die. Oh, well, then I'll go on to heaven. And I say, oh, so Ted goes on to heaven? And they're like, oh, no, my soul, my spirit goes. I say, okay, where's your soul or spirit right now? And they're like, oh, it's inside my body. I say, okay, well, hold your hand up real quick. And they'll hold their hand out. I go, what is that? And they're like, this is my hand. I said, you said my. Who owns that? Something owns the hand. Something just said my. Like, this is my car. This is my body. And you can see their whole, like, everything, just like the top just blows off. Because then they realize, they realized, they were like, wait, so like, what am I? Your consciousness. This is what, every time you hear spirit or being, that's why we're called human beings. Being is the non-physical. Human was the physical part of you. So this is why, if you notice when I speak, I will talk about Derick, because I am not Derick. This was the illusion that the physical body, the physical world, it's called the ego. It created this. You essentially thought that you were it. You thought you were your house. You thought you were your money. You thought you were occupation. You thought you were your race. You thought you were your sexual preference. You thought you were your gender. You are none of those things. You are the non-physical being that is essentially using this in this physical world. So when you understand, I told you, the spirit, mind, and body. The spirit uses the mind so then it can direct the body. So that means you are on the causal plane. The spirit, that's actually what you are, regardless of what you like, your religion. I tell people all the time, this is what people's world though. You're not even your religion. You're not.
And that hurts feelings.
Oh my goodness. Like
that hurts.
That, like, these are just boxes that the ego identifies itself with in this physical existence. The key for someone to create their life the way they wanted was to transcend the plane that they were identifying as. So as above, so below, the law of correspondence. I can't dictate the physical plane from the physical plane. I have to go to the plane above. But I can't dictate the plane above until I go to the plane above that. So it's going to the causal plane of everything. So breaking down somebody's ego, and because the ego operates in unawareness. The ego is doing what it does because we're unaware of it. And think of it like this. The ego is attached to the physical plane, but yet the real you, the I, is attached to the spiritual plane. One is infinite and the other one's finite. And this is the war. The finite one is trying to prove that like, yo, no, like I'm real, I exist. So what does it do? It develops attachments to things. It develops attachments to money, to all cars, status, approval. But then the real you is like, I don't need anybody's approval. I'm enough as I am that I am. I'm enough. So getting people to realize, especially as adults, number one, what you're not. You are none of these things. These are just identities that were created in this physical existence. Now that we've done that, now we can start to see why you have developed an attachment to them. Because we're trying to shine the flashlight of awareness on what it is. So like with me for the longest, it was like status and recognition and fame and money. And then I took a step back and I said, what is it really? Why? Why do you want those things? Because you got it, and now you still don't feel fulfilled. Man, I thought if I had those things, then everyone would approve of me. And if they approved of me, I would be at peace. That was the illusion that the ego creates. You didn't need anything to be something. That's why you were called a human being. To be means to just exist. You had everything already. The illusion that the ego did was, oh, we need that and then we'll be enough. Oh, wait, no. We need that and then we'll be, oh, wait. We need her and then we'll be enough. It was the illusion. So to help with adults is getting them to realize that like you already had everything already. Everything, like you saw when I spoke last and I had the acorn, right?
Yeah.
Everything was already inside the acorn. Everything comes fully equipped with everything already in this universe. It's a process, though, of realizing what you are, but the only way to do that is to break down what you thought you were. And that's where it's painful, and that's where a lot of people, they don't want to go down that road. But
scary.
Oh my gosh, it literally like 2 years ago, man. I don't share this. I started doing, but I was having suicidal thoughts, to the point where I even sat at my desk and I was like, okay, how are we going to do this? And the only reason why I didn't go any further with it, because I saw my son, like the shame, like he would feel that his father gave up on him, the shame that he would feel, and that was enough for me to like snap out of it. And I realized what it actually was. The ego knew that it was dying. And the ego's like, oh crap, he's figuring us out. So we might as well go, okay, one last trick. Let's make him think he's this body. Hey, we're going to. And it was at that moment my life changed, because I realized this was the tactic of the ego. It's like one last hurrah. Let me see if I can get him to really think he was this physical body. And so I tell, this is where part of my heart is for young people who I hear John Wall came out about suicide and everything. When I hear that, I say, oh my gosh, they're so close.
That's a win.
That's a win. The ego is almost out of the way. It's almost there. If you can just hold on and trust and know that you're not your body. You are not your body. Because if you were, you would never say my body. You would never say that. Something owns the body. Something's using this body as a vessel. And I tell people, when you meditate, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you about next. Is you talk a lot about meditation, stillness, mindfulness, gratitude, all those types of things. And I know that those are valuable. And a lot of athletes might already be using that, coaches as well, which is kind of who's listening to this show. What are some of the benefits that people might not know about those practices and how powerful they can be to kind of rewiring themselves?
Yeah. So meditation, Harvard did a study, it obviously improves your ability to be aware of your thought, but there's actually a biological benefit to you meditating, like repairing your cells, your nervous system, lowering your blood pressure, like cholesterol level. Like the benefits are endless of you just being aware of your thoughts. So I always tell people, like, because young people are like, what do I have to do to get to the next level? I'm like, well, number one, I would start with meditation. Meditation is not the end all be all, but what meditation is going to do is going to help you to be aware of your thoughts. So now, because I'm aware of my thoughts, I will be aware when I don't believe in myself, when I'm doubting myself, when I'm feeling fear. A lot of times fear is unconscious. But when I'm aware of it, now, because I'm aware of it, I can sit here and have a conversation with myself. Wait, Derick, why do you feel fear? What's going on? What are you really afraid of? Oh, you're afraid that if you don't do it, you won't get their approval. Oh, so why are you worried about their approval? You haven't approved of yourself yet. So there's some work that needs to be done. If I don't meditate, I just look at it like, oh, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the situation. No, it's really not the situation. There's something different. There's something below the surface. So I think in the Western world, we've kind of like there's a stigma behind meditation, and we think it's like, oh, we're supposed to sit here and lotus position with right. But like really, all it is, I just tell people, it's just a weight room for your mind. That's all it is. Like, so we have spirit, we have mind, and we have body. For most people, they're all lumped up together. They're all like literally on top of each other. So people never get to live from the spiritual plane to control the mental plane to then impact the physical plane. It's all one. So they think that, and the ego takes over. So now we think we're everything on the physical plane and the mental plane. Meditation, what it does is it allows you to be able to start to create separation. And the thing that's like the cause, I say that it's the flashlight, it's the light. That's the thing that's shining on the thoughts. That's the thing that's shining its awareness on the body. But when you're like all jumbled up and you're not aware, you think that you're the body because the light is, but you don't realize that, no, there's something back there shining the light. And that's where meditation has come in. And it's been, I tell people, like, I don't eat much as it is, but I won't eat. If someone had to say, like, hey, you either eat 7 meals in a week or you meditate. Oh, I'm meditating. Every time. I will, like, because I've seen what it has done. I can't, like, it has changed the trajectory of my life and everybody who comes in contact with me. Like, I'm not sitting here right now if I don't meditate. I'm not.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned the weight room analogy, and this helped me a lot. You told me this a couple years ago because I would try to meditate, and I thought that I was doing it wrong because I would lose my train of thought and my mind would go off somewhere, and then I'd be like frustrated, like, damn, I can't meditate, I can't focus, like my mind is everywhere. But then you flipped it and said, that's what you want. So every time your mind goes off during meditation and you bring it back to focus, that's like doing one rep.
Exactly.
And so the more you get better at that, you can do more reps. The more reps you do, the stronger you get. Is that kind of the analogy?
Yeah, no, so I look at it like, so every morning I do the same thing where I'll take a 4-count inhale, hold for 4 seconds, and then exhale for 4 seconds. On the exhale, I'm starting at 30. And every time I exhale, I count backwards. I count down. 29, 28. Usually, I'll get to like 25. And now, like, I'm off thinking about something else. And then I got to come back, like, okay, all right, we're on 25 now. Yeah. And I go 24. It may take me like 45 minutes just to count backwards from 30. Because I'm like, ping, 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 ping. But the more I do it, and here's the thing. It's the law of rhythm. Some days you're going to be on and some days you're going to be off. Right? But this is what I found, just to make it simple for people, because like I said, a lot of people think meditation is like this, like woo-woo things they don't even want to go by. It's literally just you being able to concentrate your mind and hold it there using one of the faculties of willpower. And the more you do this, the more awareness you will have. So when you're in your waking state and everything's hitting the fan, you'll be sitting back like this with a smile on your face because you're not just reacting. You can be aware of what you're thinking and consciously choose.
Yeah, that's helped, man. It's been a game changer. And especially for athletes, man, it's like, because there's so much, I mean, the higher level you go up, the more you have less control of some of the things that happen. At the pro level becomes a business. You could get cut just because some other dude's agent owes the GM a favor, and you're better. But you have the thought process to not say, "Damn, I suck. Like I'm about to just retire." You have the ability to actually control those thoughts and move on and find a way to perceive it in a positive, and then find a different team, and maybe that different team is a better fit for you. Examples like that. So I think with athletes, it's such a big thing, and then coaches as well, because we are probably one of the higher stress jobs. And then in terms of pay scale, like obviously a brain surgeon, high stress job. Pay scale is there though to support that. Right. High school basketball coach, high stress job. Pay scale's not up to par. So these are things that even coaches can do to help themselves, alleviate some of that stress and be a better coach for them. Maybe you're a better coach, you win more games. College might pick you up. Now you're getting a little bit more money. You ain't getting $42,000 a year to work 98 hours a week or month or whatever it is. But yeah, I really like the concept of mindfulness, meditation, just being with your own thoughts, because then, like you said, you can have control of them when otherwise you would not have.
That's where, like, I often say, because when I got done with the Globetrotters, I went down the route of coaching, like whether it's college, Division I, or the NBA. I threw my name out there to try and get there, and I'm like, now looking back on, I'm like, I would have been a terrible coach, but now I'm like, to me, it's really simple. It's really simple when you understand how it all works. And we look at like Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson knew, which is why, like, he knew. And I read his book, and I'm like, Phil Jackson wasn't no basketball coach. Phil Jackson was like a spiritual advisor / he understood, which is why he could deal with Kobe and Shaq and Michael, like some of the biggest egos in the world, and he could deal with them because he himself understood how everything worked from the inside out. So yeah, I sometimes think about, I would never do it when my kids are young now, but I'm like, man, like, how cool would it be to be on a staff and like
be their mindset coach?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but then I also say too, though, I'm like, there's too many people out there in the world. Like, I don't like to be boxed in. I don't like to be confined. So
So last thing, and then I'll throw you into the fire round. Speaking of MJ and Kobe, I don't know if you listen to Tim Grover or have read any of his books. He has a lot of mindset stuff as well, but I listened to something he said and actually used it, and it helped. And it was about meditation. So he said one time, I think it was MJ was having like some big toe problems. He had some going on with his big toes, like ingrown toenail or some kind of weird injury, and it was bothering him. He made him meditate. But when he meditated, he said, I want you to meditate and picture yourself playing these games, dropping 30, 40, winning, all that. And he did that. And then he asked him after he meditated, he was like, when you were envisioning yourself in these games, was your toe hurt? MJ was like, no, I was fully healthy. And he was like, so go out there and just perform. You saw yourself do it already. Yeah. And so like it was crazy. I broke my pinky, right? Yeah. So I started buddy taping it to this finger. Yeah. 3 weeks later, I broke this finger while it was taped to this finger. So I was like, oh, what the hell, man? I'll just try it. So I tried to meditate and be like, fully healthy when I envision myself playing 30 plus men's league basketball games. But that's important to me. Like I'm not trying to be out here. I'm not a bum. Like I'm giving out buckets. And so I did that, and I went out there, killed. My finger I didn't even think about it. It was taped up. Shot was good. Like I was struggling with my shot at the time because it was coming off my hand weird. Like. And I did that, and I'm like, damn, what? Like, I just fixed myself. Now my fingers they're broken, but like, they'll be all right. Ain't nothing you can do. Just wait. The bone will fix itself. But it was just, I was like, man, MJ and Kobe had access to guys like Phil Jackson, Tim Grover, other people who were obviously operating on another level. Right. and just people who have access to you or even this podcast. I mean, we threw a lot at the audience today.
Sure.
Run it back, take notes.
Yeah. No,
I thought about taking my notes from your clinic the other day and just making that the podcast.
Wow.
And just being like, but then I was like, no, that's kind of selfish because they might not know what you're talking about. But I was like, I could do that. So, guys, listen back, take notes if you have to. Before we get into the fire round, do you have anything that you want to say? Anything I missed? Any concepts that you feel are important for coaches and athletes?
No, I think especially coaches, like what I find, and this is because everything is just, it's holographic, right? Holographic just means that like the macro is going to have the micro in it, right? As above, so below. So as you are as a leader, your followers will be. As above, so below. It goes in that too. So I tell coaches now, like, it starts with you. It starts with you. You have to do the work on yourself and be aware of your thoughts and be self-aware to the point where you're not freaking out. You're not throwing a fit. You're not throwing a tantrum, because what you're doing now is you're providing the space for your players to do the same thing. They're going to that's all they're going to do. They're literally the below is going to be the same as the above. So if you do it can't be like, oh yeah, we had this guy come in and Derick spoke to the team, and like, no, you have to do the work on yourself. So creating, and I always say this, you got to create an environment that your players are allowed to fail. You almost have to embrace it, because if you look at everything in your life, every situation you've ever been through, there was a hardship that came first, and then the sun came out, and then you had the win. Like losses, darkness, hardship, that comes first, because that's where you start to like gather energy. You go inward and you start to reflect and like, what do I need to do differently to propel you to the next level? So like when I work with athletes, I'm like, man, if I could just get coaches to understand, like create a space that when you're in practice, like learn from the mistakes, but like if you fail, you mess up, it's okay. It's okay, so long as we're learning from the failure, because if we use it right, this could be the best thing that ever happened.
It could totally be the solution to whatever caused that problem.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
I love it. All right, fire round time.
Oh boy.
All right, so we're just going rapid fire. Okay. Rapid fire. Quickest thing that comes to your mind. I mean, you can go as long as you want on these, but I'm going to read them off here just so I wrote these last night and I was like, yeah, these are fire. All right. So we're going to start with a tough one. I'm putting you in a very bad situation right here. Start one.
Do I get to explain, or do I?
Yeah, you can explain.
Oh, okay. Just want to
Start one, bench one, cut one. Mindfulness, gratitude, perception.
Start perception. I'd probably bench gratitude. Bench mindfulness. Start gratitude. What was bench play?
Start, bench, cut. So you got to cut one.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what I said. I mean, it's tough.
I'd cut mindfulness, bench gratitude,
Bench
start
gratitude,
perception.
start perception.
Yeah. Woo, that's a
tough,
good
ain't
one.
it?
Wow.
That's like 3 favorite words right there.
Yeah.
You got that one go.
Dang. Dang. That was good.
Now, we haven't talked a lot about basketball, but you were a basketball trainer, high-level basketball trainer for years. Any player you've trained in their prime, all the players you've trained in their prime, king of the court or queen of the court, who's winning?
Dang.
That's tough.
Like who's?
There's names. You can name drop. There's names.
I just want to make sure I don't miss it. And I would say, here's the thing, as you know with basketball, it's not always just skill. Because there's some guys who I've worked with who are super skilled, but they can't match physically with. I'd say probably the player that made it look so easy, like this isn't even real. Like, who is this? Like Paul George.
Really?
He's like, you ever seen the movie Avatar?
Yeah.
When he walked in the gym, I was like, he looked like one of those blue dudes off of Avatar. Like his head was as long as my thigh. Like
he's
different. And I remember thinking he was like down in the defensive stance. I was like, how is a dude this big, 6'9", how is he moving like this? And how can you get so low? Like how I was like perplexed that a physical body could do this.
Yeah.
So I'd say him, but only because of his sheer size. But if we go off of skill, like just straight skill, players that I've worked with who can just flat out like, I'm gonna throw Kyle Guy up there, man. Kyle can, and you never like. I watch him. I'm like, yo, like how,
Yeah.
like he's somehow like consistently does it.
It's crazy.
It's
Watching
wild.
him play
Like
is crazy.
you think you gonna see this dude like buying a lawnmower at Lowe's, and then you look at like he's over here killing like you over here killing
a
Giannis,
lawnmower.
and you're like, what? How? Like
He's tough. He is different. Yeah, that's a good answer. PG wasn't on my radar. In my head, I was thinking Eric Gordon.
Eric was another one, but you know what? Eric, every time I work with Eric, he was always coming off of like a rehab. Like so I didn't really
never like fully.
Yeah.
That's tough.
He's a specimen too, though. He's
Yeah.
physically. I mean, he's like you want to talk about like you can't work on what he has like physically.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kyle, man. We'll get Kyle on the show. Get Kyle on the show. All right, if I gave you 10 mil today, cash, which I will not, but if I did, what's your first purchase?
First purchase. So I just bought 3 acres of land here about a month ago, and I haven't built anything on it yet. And the goal is to build basically like a retreat center / home to help athletes. Like you come here like John Wall. All right, come out here for a week, and we're gonna get you right in spirit, mind, and body. So if I had 10 mil, we'd be done. We'd be done here pretty quickly.
That would be dope. That's going to be dope when you do it.
Yeah.
If you have a court in the weight room, let me know.
No, you've actually been in the talk, so
Let's go.
Don't even worry about it.
All right. Other than a trainer and a coach, what's the favorite job you've ever had?
That I've gotten paid for? Do I have to get paid for it?
No.
Okay.
No.
I really enjoy being a father.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, I really.
Damn, you won that one. Yeah, that's a great answer.
I enjoy being a father, man, because I've realized that my children are really like my greatest teachers.
That's such a good answer. I thought you were going to say like, oh, when I was in 9th grade, I worked out Home Depot and it was so fun.
No, like being a father has like, obviously, like it's trying, it pushes you, but like I've realized that we talk about subconscious beliefs, subconscious programs. Like I'm like, oh wow, like I'm trying to get my son to do this because this is what I wanted when I was 10. And I'm like, wow, you're teaching me about myself when I was 10. Like you're showing me how I was.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, 1 meal, rest of your life, including the health implications. Actually, no, screw that. No health implications. 1 meal, rest of your life, you'll stay the same physically.
So I have to eat the same thing over and over again?
Every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Water. That's it.
Hoist?
Bet
that. I got you. I'll put you in contact with Allie.
Yes! Shout out to Hoist.
All right, this one's good. Tell me a dad joke.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Tank.
Tank who?
You're welcome. Somebody get this guy a gig right now. Somebody get this guy a stand-up gig right now.
Bro, I'm gonna tell my kids that today.
Son, I got dad jokes for days.
Oh my god. All right, a couple more. Worst cult following movie. Like a movie that everybody's like, oh, it's so good. Like for me, it's Hoosiers. Hoosiers, it's not that good. It's not that good.
I'm gonna throw Hoosiers up there probably at number 2. Number 1? I don't watch many movies, so okay. So Hocus Pocus. right? Because it's
Okay.
Halloween,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
my wife's like, you gotta watch Hocus Pocus. It's so funny. I watched it. I was like,
It's mid. It's cute one
yeah,
time, kinda.
yeah. I would.
But you got to watch it every October. That's what's crazy.
That's yeah. I don't. Man, that's a good question,
Never
dude. I
gets
don't know.
better.
Like some movies that everybody loves that I just didn't like. Sandlot, like
Dang,
yeah,
really?
Sandlot was.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I couldn't get down with it. I don't know. Like I didn't.
That's tough.
It wasn't. And I watched it a
respect
couple
that.
times. Yeah.
That's a good
Are
movie.
you do you view me differently now?
No, you're locked in. You're locked in. I already got you. All right, 2 more. The movie about your life. What's it called? What's the title?
I am you.
I Am You. Damn, you had that ready. It's dropping soon, huh? That's dropping soon.
Yeah.
Our last one. This is not part of the fire round. I just want people to know how they can access you, every way possible. You know, app, Instagram, TikTok, all that. How can people find DG? Because they need you.
Wow.
The people need you.
I made it simple, so everything is at DG Mindset. So TikTok at DG Mindset, Instagram at DG Mindset, Twitter at DG Mindset, website dgmindset.com. My app, only for Apple users. I could not figure out Google. Go to the App Store and it's DG Mindset. Try to make it simple. So you can remember DG Mindset. You're good. You can find me.
People need it.
And I tell people always, I'm not one of those guys who's like, oh yeah, like, hit me up, send me a, like, no, literally, like, send me a DM if you have any question. That's why, like, I started doing twice a week, ask me anything on my story, like on Instagram. Like, if you have a question, ask it. I'm here to help people get out their own way and help them really use all the tools that they've been blessed with. So send me a message. I love it.
Hey, man, I appreciate you for coming on here. It's a pleasure.
Dude,
it's a pleasure.
This is going to be epic what you're doing, man. So
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you having me on, man, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's episode 1. DG in the books. Make sure you like, subscribe, share. Do all your civic duty to make my podcast blow up so I can get more sponsors like Hoist. All right, peace.